So guys, as of me recording this video, it is now 8:30 in the evening on April 10th, and about 6 hours ago Game Informer released a brand new article where they actually had a hands-on preview of Star Wars Outlaws, so it reveals some new information about the game. So in this video I'll just be going over that article with you guys, so make sure you stick around until the end for all of the news on this, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for plenty more Star Wars Outlaws content to come. So looking at the article now, it says here that Star Wars Outlaws features several planets and moons for the players to explore, including iconic and well-known locales like Tatooine, Kijimi and Akiva. But this person from Game Informer called Brian, he played on Toshara, which is the new moon created by Massive Entertainment. So there's nothing new there really in terms of planetary information, but it looks here that he landed on Toshara following some unfortunate events, and then you head to the moon's capital city, which is called Mirogana, which is that big city under the mushroom kind of thing. And Mirogana is said to be dense and multi-leveled, and not necessarily a big sprawling city like other open world games, so I think it's meant to be quite dense but has a lot of different activities and things like that, which I'll go into now, because just after this image here, which we saw last year, it says that as you make your way through Mirogana, Kay ignores the beckoning shopkeepers, arcade games, betting areas, and table hosting the in-universe card game Sabacc to find her way to the cantina. Now this sounds like it's telling me that we can actually go and do all these things. We've known for a while that there's going to be shopkeepers in the game and market vendors and things like that, so that part of it comes as no surprise. Then it says arcade games, which hopefully if there's like arcade minigame kind of things that we can play just sort of on the whim throughout a city or wherever, that would be pretty cool. And whether these arcade games are more like, you know, K blaster practice like in Lego Star Wars, or if they're like actual arcade machine kind of things in universe, I don't know. But that seems like we can do something there. And then betting areas would be quite interesting, so whether that's like a sport of some kind you can watch on TV, or maybe it's not even that, it's just a case of some random lucky bet thing like a lucky dip or whatever, I don't really know. But it looks like there will be betting areas where obviously we'll be able to lose money or earn a profit, and then a table hosting the in-universe card game Sabacc. So it looks like we will probably be able to play Sabacc in this game, which is awesome. I've always had my theory on that anyway, as I'm sure many of you had as well following the reveal trailer last year. But if we can do all of these things in the game, that to me is just awesome, and I'm very, very excited for that. And then from here we learn that the Pike Syndicate leader is called Gorak, as stated here, and he's in the VIP section of the Mirogana Cantina. Now the really interesting thing about this is that Kay actually can't go in to that section because he's in the VIP area. Now whether this is a Pike Syndicate relationship thing or not, it says here that you have to use Kay's data spike, which requires you to use a rhythm based minigame in order to get through. So a bit like in Hogwarts Legacy with lockpicking, you had to sort of turn the wheels and things like that to open the door with Alohomora. I imagine this therefore is a fairly similar thing, which is really fun. So this here is Gorak, you would have seen him from the trailer. And then Kay gets kicked out, which I think is what we see in the trailer. And from that, we then meet Danka, who's the Mon Calamari we saw in the gameplay last year. So from that point onwards, I think that's when she then starts getting missions from Danka. And that then sends her off to a heavily guarded Pike Syndicate stronghold, where they then go into a mission. I don't really want to go into it too much, just because I don't necessarily want to spoil anything for you guys or anything like that. By all means, feel free to read it yourself. I'll try and remember to link it in the description. But if not, it will be on Game Informer's website. But this article does seemingly confirm that the game will have a total of 5 crime syndicates in total, of which 4 of them you'll be able to work towards in terms of a relationship, whereas Zarek Besh, they are obviously like the big bad guys, and yeah, we can't work for them, but we can work for the Hutt Cartel, led by Jabba of course, Crimson Dawn, led by Kira, which is really cool, she's obviously in Solo, and then we have the Ashiga clan, who is a new syndicate created for the game, and they're called the Ashiga clan because their leader is called Queen Ashiga, who I assume is the samurai looking person from the trailer yesterday. And then Gorak is the Pike Syndicate leader as well, as we can see here. So that's really neat. Definitely excited to build a reputation with all of them. And it does say here as well that, you know, you've got the 4 syndicates. So then also says here that with the reputation system, you've then got a range of terrible to excellent, and yeah, it determines how the crime syndicate treats you, which we already kind of knew was the case anyway, but this article provides quite a good look into that. So yeah, having a good reputation means that you could walk freely into their hideouts, offer you special stock or discounts at shops in their territory. So we kind of knew that already, but later on in the article it says about how this person went into a Crimson Dawn facility facility, they got through straight away into one section, but they couldn't go into the next section because their reputation wasn't good enough. So it looks like we'll be able to manage that here and there, which is quite nice. And because their reputation with the Pike Syndicate was poor, in the mission they did for Danker, they couldn't actually go into it anyway. They had to sneak through the whole place. And for a bit of time as well, they weren't actually allowed to use their gun, which I thought was an interesting decision. Like, the game forced them to have to go stealth, and it wasn't until I think they got spot later on, or they got into a more restricted section, that they were only allowed to use their gun there. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And then another thing here is that Nyx seemingly has sensors that will allow us to see electrical circuits in the wall, so that can then tell you what button to press to do certain things. And we kind of did get to see that in the gameplay last year anyway, actually, where he pressed the button and that crate moved. So it's a little bit like that. Nyx will be very useful in helping out with those situations, which is nice to see. And in this article as well, it talks about the healing items and fallen enemy weapons as well. So we kind of knew that was the case as well anyway, because Nyx in the gameplay went and picked up an A300 blaster rifle, but it looks like pretty much any weapon that gets dropped by someone we can pick up and use for a limited time. Whether it will be every single weapon, I don't know, but I think that would be really interesting if we can do that. So I'm definitely keen to see a lot of those kind of things in the game, because there's already quite a lot of new weapons that I'm really excited to hopefully use, because I love me some Star Wars weapons, especially when they're new ones as well. It's always something that I really enjoy learning about. So, and then as part of this being spotted in that Pike Syndicate mission, there's a blue outline of the player when you sort of flee an area, and that's like your last known location to the enemies. So this is a very common thing in games, but I think it's just nice, you know, always to see that that's the case. So that's where the enemies will check first before fanning out to find you. So it's useful to know that, so that we can sort of plan accordingly in our stealth elements. And then to sort of finish that mission that they were doing, they actually got a choice to give the information to Gorak as part of the Pike Syndicate, even though it was from a Pike Syndicate thing. I don't really want to go too much into what it was, just in case people don't want spoilers or anything. Or they could give the information to Crimson Dawn. So it sounds like there's going to be quite a lot of different choices like that, where we'll be able to have one thing, we can give it to one syndicate or another. Now, whether or not that really impacts the story of the game, it's really hard to say. I think if it's like a main mission, then maybe it will have a fairly big impact. But it certainly does impact the reputation system, so being able to play around with the syndicates like that is going to be definitely a bit of a task, but I think it should be a lot of fun. And there are kind of two last things that I wanted to touch over. So the first one here is that Brian took an optional job with another quest giver in the cantina. So the cantinas are going to be like the main like sort of hubs in each planet, I think, within the cities certainly. So it looks like side quests are very much going to be a thing in this game, which I mean I was very much expecting anyway, but I'm hoping there's quite a lot to do, to be honest, because I can just honestly see myself sinking hours into this game. And then the final thing I wanted to touch on was this part here. It says about hearing radio chatter for some activities I could pursue. So I mean, this is quite vague, but it looks like through radio chatter we might have multiple different tasks and activities to be able to do and to find. So I'm definitely very interested in seeing more about this, and hopefully we'll hear more closer to launch. And actually one final thing here is it says that there was a new modification from a previous mission for her blaster, which is an ion blast, which is useful against droid enemies and for environmental puzzles. So it looks like puzzles and mini games and all sorts of things like that are going to be a key part of this game, which is the same for all kinds of games these days, really. They're always a big part of it, which I'm really looking forward to seeing more of that. It's a big part of the Jedi franchise, where that's more using the Force and your traversal abilities, whereas this game it's seemingly going to be more about weaponry and modifying your weapons and stuff like that. So definitely keen for that. But it says about just going to a nearby building and grabbing loot from it, but because the door was locked, that's why they had to pull the ion blaster ability out. So hopefully that means we can go into just random buildings. Honestly, that would be really fun. But yeah, they're just some of the new details that we found out from this article about Star Wars Outlaws. This game honestly sounds like my dream game. I've been wanting a scoundrel kind of game like this, where we work for crime syndicates and stuff like that, for genuinely I think about 10 plus years now. It's always been a dream of mine, so I am so glad that it's finally happening, and I cannot wait to hear more. And if you can't as well, then make sure you are subscribed to the channel. That is everything from me today though. Thank you all very much for watching, and may the Force be with you always.